It's Sunday, June 1st, 2025. The Vatican is glowing in the morning sun. Nearly 120 countries represented, one square. Thousands of families, kids waving flags, parents holding hands, grandparents leaning on walking sticks or cradling grandbabies. But no one, and I mean no one, was prepared for what the Pope would say next. Pope Leo XIV stepped up to the microphone and dropped a statement that stunned the world. Marriage is not an ideal. It is the measure of true love between a man and a woman. What does that mean? Why are people so divided about it? Let's break it down together. Pope Leo XIV's words weren't academic. They were disruptive. In a world where love is measured by emotion, flexibility, and self-interest, he said, marriage is not an ideal to pursue, but the canon, the measure of true love between a man and a woman. By calling marriage a canon, he framed it as a divine constant, not a shifting cultural trend. He wasn't saying marriage is something to admire from afar, like a piece of art. He was saying it's the divine standard by which all human love should be measured. This is a direct challenge to the modern view of love as fluid, adaptable, or individualistic. Instead, he offers the biblical view. Genesis 2:24, the two shall become one flesh. Ephesians 5:25, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. In other words, marriage isn't about compatibility or chemistry. It's about covenant. It's a calling to become something holy, sacrificial, and unshakable. And the world, especially a world built on fleeting pleasure, was not ready for that. And as expected, the backlash was nuclear. LGBTQ+ groups across Europe and North America labeled the Pope's remarks dangerous and dehumanizing. UN officials issued quiet but firm rebukes. Editorials poured out, accusing the Vatican of rolling back progress and reopening old wounds. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #NotMyPope and marriage is fluid trended globally. Activists said this was a cold war against diversity. But here's what they missed. The Pope wasn't targeting people. He was defending truth, and that's what they couldn't handle. Because in a post-truth world, clarity sounds like cruelty. And here's the irony. Most outrage came from nations already suffering the fruits of moral confusion. Collapsing birth rates, record-high divorce, and loneliness at epidemic levels. But in the global South, the response was very different. Bishops in Africa called the statement an act of holy rebellion. In Latin America, Catholics wept in cathedrals. In the Philippines, youth ministries flooded social media with messages like, "Now we know the Church has not forgotten us." Truth resonates where people are still hungry for it. Pope Leo XIV didn't just teach theology. He echoed prophecy. The scriptures warned us, in the last days, people will be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. 2 Timothy 3:1-5. They exchange the truth of God for a lie. Romans 1:25. By restoring marriage to its biblical roots, the Pope wasn't offering nostalgia. He was issuing a final warning. Marriage is not just a symbol, it's a sign of Christ and His Church, Ephesians 5:31 through 32. And when you distort that sign, you distort the gospel. This is why the enemy always attacks marriage first. He doesn't need to burn churches if he can break homes. Leo XIV's words were thunder, not because they were new, but because they were clear. He said what too many bishops and priests have been afraid to say for decades. This wasn't opinion. It was a prophetic strike against the lies of our time and a wake-up call to the faithful.
Pope Leo didn't speak in theories. He gave examples. He reminded us that real love, covenant love, already exists. It's been lived. It's been tested. It's been proven. He spoke about Saints Louis and Zélie Martin, the parents of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux. They weren't famous, they weren't perfect, but their love bore fruit, not just in 9 children, but in a doctor of the Church. He also honored the Ulma family, Polish farmers during World War II who hid their Jewish neighbors from the Nazis. They were executed, all of them, parents, children, even their unborn child. Their love didn't survive the world. It overcame it. That's the kind of love Pope Leo is pointing to. Not romantic, not fragile, but sacrificial, unyielding, eternal.
As Pope Leo's message echoed through the square, cameras turned to the crowd. A mother with 3 toddlers in tow, weeping. An elderly man clutching a rosary. 2 newlyweds whispering prayers over each other's hands. This wasn't politics. It was personal. Because every person in that square, every person watching online, knew the truth deep down. The world doesn't crumble when we get marriage wrong. The world crumbles when we pretend it doesn't matter. And Pope Leo, he didn't whisper. He declared it boldly. The Mass ended quietly, but the seed had already been planted. This wasn't just a homily, it was a reminder that love, real love, isn't something you fall into, it's something you choose every day. That marriage isn't a dream to chase, it's a battle to fight, a covenant to keep, and that the truth, even when it costs us everything, is still worth proclaiming. So here's the question. Will you build your life on something real? Pope Leo's message wasn't just for married couples. It was for every generation. To parents, he said, "You are the first witnesses of love. Teach your children not only with words, but with your presence." To children, he said, "Start with gratitude. Say thank you. That's how you learn to honor." To grandparents, he said, "Your stories are sacred. Don't be silent. You carry the memory of God's faithfulness." He reminded us that family isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up again and again, in joy, in pain, in routine. And in a time where screens replace conversations and likes replace real love, this message hit home.